Hello and welcome to episode 4. This is a very special episode. I am not in the studio anymore. I'm not in Canggu. I'm not in Bali. I'm now back in Perth. I've been reunited with my first ever guest in the form of my partner in crime, Miss Ivana Kostovich. And on this episode, we will be discussing the whole eye infection saga from the moment it happened to where we are now and the implications it has on our future. Hello Ivana, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, Jamie. How are you?
Good. What do you think of the podcast so far?
Yeah, it's cool. It's turned into a travelling podcast today. I'm really proud of you. I've stuck along with every single episode and I'm always keen to hear them before everyone else.
Yeah.
Because I want to give you feedback, even though I know you can't change anything once it's out there.
Yeah, well, I have been giving you sneak previews. You've got like the VIP pass to see to get a first preview of every single episode. So what do you think? Have you enjoyed it so far?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it, and I've also been waiting for you to get guests on.
Yeah.
So I'm stoked to be your first guest.
It's good to have you.
I'm nervous.
I'm nervous as well. And any improvements, any suggestions on how I can improve this podcast?
No, I think just keep doing your thing and you're going to naturally fall into a rhythm and kind of learn what people like and don't like, what you don't like and like and things like that. So yeah, I think just keep doing what you're doing. I know you talk a lot about when you've been doing something for say a year and you look back on your first episode or content or whatever and you say wow, that was really terrible what I did.
So you're saying it's terrible?
No, but I'm saying that you're going to be proud to look back at everything you've done and it can only get better and better.
Right, okay. I'll take that. That's constructive. I'm always a fan of constructive feedback, so I'll take that. Now, you mentioned that I've got a different personality in camera. What is that all about?
Well, it's like you have this show persona, and I'm sure most people have it. I definitely have multiple personas because I'm a Gemini. But yeah, you put on this, it's almost like you want to entertain people, and you got a good side of your face and you've just got a few different facial movements and things like that. So yeah, I think I'll call him Show Jamie.
Aye, showbiz. Aye, it's all about Jamie. That's fine. You've got to turn it on when the camera's on. You've got to accentuate. And I've got this, as you call it, sympathy English as well that I need to use so everyone can understand me. So, naturally my face looks a little bit different when I talk with this weird accent. Yeah,
it is like you are putting on an accent with your sympathy English.
Right, I'm not putting it on. No,
but it's not your natural way of speaking.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. No, you are my first ever guest. I have had a great start. Please don't ruin it. All right.
I ruin quite a lot of things, so I hope that I won't ruin this.
Well, I'll just let everyone know this is actually take 2. The first take was a disaster. Say no more, Ivana. Because I don't want to go into take 3. So this is take 2.
All right.
So don't ruin it. You've been warned. All right.
It's my first time.
Right. Well, what's that you're drinking? Because as you know, I've been drinking whiskey, cola last week. So what is that you're drinking?
I'm just drinking an Earl Grey tea with a dash of milk. Mm-hmm. It's my favourite tea. Yeah. I always opt the old Earl Grey if I'm not having a herbal. That is.
What milk's that?
I've just got normal. Actually, it's not normal regular milk. It's A2 milk, and it's all my mum had in the fridge. But A2 milk is basically this. I didn't know this, but apparently milk has different proteins in it, and so there's A1 and A2. And A1, I don't know if it's synthetic or not. I really don't know much about it.
Right.
All I know is that this milk and this tea is specifically A2 protein milk. But as I say, it's all that's in the fridge.
Okay, well,
that's why it's in my tea.
I've never heard of A2 milk, so I'll take your word for it because I drink my tea black. So make of that what you will. Now, this episode is all dedicated to you and your eye abrasion and your eye infection. So before we get an update on, how you are, let's go back to that fateful night, December the 8th, when we were in Bali, where it all started. When did you start to feel the pain? Can you remember what happened that night?
We'd been staying, I think, was it the weekend? We'd been staying somewhere and then we got back to our guest house and there were a bunch of people over and I just had a slight irritation in my eye So I just thought, God, I need to go and take my contacts out. So I went to the bathroom, like took off my makeup, took out my contacts, put them in the box, put my glasses on, and the plan was to rejoin everyone because there was like a big group of people at ours. And I went back outside and I just sat out there and I just thought, my eye still feels really horrible. Like maybe I'm just really tired or there's, irritated somehow. Maybe I should just go to sleep. Mm-hmm. So I basically said, I'm so sorry to everyone. I've got to go to bed, and went off to my bed.
Well, that's it. I mean, I remember we'd had such a good day, we had loads of friends round to the guest house. I was drinking whiskey, of course. And it was just such a good night. And I remember you saying that you had a sore eye or a sore head or something like that, and then you disappeared off into the night. And the good fiance that I am, I never checked on you that night because let's face it.
I mean, I did go to bed.
Let's face it. You are the boy that cried wolf. You do go to your bed a lot with sore heads and sore eyes. I just thought, especially after a few whiskeys, all the friends around, I just assumed that it's just one of your normal sore eyes and your sore head. But I woke up.
Well, I woke you up.
You tried to wake me up. I think I was still full of the whiskey from the night before. You tried to wake me up, and you were in a lot of pain. And you had to go to hospital, but I couldn't take you because I couldn't wake up. So,
well, basically, I woke up at like literally 5:30 a.m. or something super early like that. And my eye was hurting, it was red. Like I went to the mirror and I looked at it and I just thought, holy heck, like this is not good. I was trying to think of, what could it be? I mean, I've had conjunctivitis before, but I knew it wasn't that because the symptoms were similar, but just not the same. Like, when you just know in your gut, like it's something different. So I spent probably 1 hour on Google trying to, I know that you shouldn't do this, but I mean, what else are you meant to do in those situations?
Never look on Google.
Dr. Google, what's wrong with me? And found what I thought it could be. And then I determined that I should probably get some medical assistance. So spent literally like 40 minutes Googling the best hospital to go to in Bali, bearing in mind that we had travel insurance and that might depend where you should go. Because it was something to do with my eye. I was like, is there some eye specialist around that I could go to? I even honestly phoned friends that we had in Bali and local people. And
that morning? Yep.
And I just said, this is happening to me. Do you know where I could go? Mm-hmm. And everyone had a different recommendation. So that was great.
So you and Stacey went off to the hospital in a Gojek.
Well, I tried to wake you up. And you were still drunk, basically. Like, you rolled over, and the words that I said to you were, babe, I think I need to go to the hospital. And at this point, I was basically crying. And you just were like, and rolled back over again. I mean,
in hindsight, obviously, I regret that morning, but who knew it was to escalate to this point?
Yeah, so I was like, okay, he's a bit useless. Like, not your fault at all. I knew you'd been drinking or whatever, and I didn't expect... obviously, it would be nice for you to come with me to the hospital, but I was like, you're going to be less used to me at the hospital than... it was just a better idea for you to stay home. And I knew that our friends, Stacey and Sean, were staying in the same guest house. Stacey usually woke up early, so I just messaged her and I asked... would you come to the hospital with me? Luckily she did, because I was light sensitive, so I couldn't really see through that eye, and light really bothered me. So I did need someone to come with me to sort of help me out and stuff. So I'm just thankful that she was able to do that for me.
As am I, because I was useless that morning. And which hospital did you go to?
Oh, God. So my insurance told me that I needed to go to a public hospital. Otherwise, they wouldn't cover the cost if I needed to put in a claim. So I ended up going to this special eye hospital called Bali Mandara, I think it was called. And I saw a ophthalmologist.
What's an ophthalmologist?
So an ophthalmologist is an eye doctor. So they deal with all the diseases of the eye, like a specialist eye doctor. And they actually have a clinic at that hospital that runs from, it's something like 9 till 11, where there's an ophthalmologist available to see people that need to pop in, or people that have made appointments prior. So just really luckily, like, went to that hospital, was able to see an ophthalmologist.
What was your first impressions of the hospital?
So it was very different to sort of Western hospitals. Obviously, I didn't know where I was going, or neither did Stacey, and we ended up walking into what I believe was like the ED, or the emergency room waiting area for local Balinese people. And then I had no idea like where to go or what I was meant to be doing or who to talk to, and eventually a security guard like sort of took us the back way through the hospital to the Western section. So for those of you
there's like a separate westernized hospital.
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, Bali sort of has all, like most of the hospitals there have sort of an area for locals and then another area for tourists or visitors. And the area for tourists or visitors is always like, there's no one there. It's really like immaculately clean. You can tell it's like a bit of an upgrade on the usual local facilities. So I got taken to that area, got put into the system. I got my own little hospital, like a plastic card thing. And then got basically seen by the optometrist first. So they did like a vision test.
An optometrist.
So that was to do the vision test.
So you've got an ophthalmologist.
Optometrist first.
So you've seen optometrists first. What are they?
They're just like the people that deal with your vision acuity. So it's like if you needed glasses, you go to an optometrist and they can sort of fit your glasses for you, do the vision test, see how badly your eyes are doing. So they do the vision test, obviously, so they have some sort of a benchmark, because if you come back again and your vision's worsened, they need to be able to say, it's either the same, better, or worse. And then after that, I saw the ophthalmologist.
Ophthalmologist is like the specialist. That's the actual person you want to see.
Yeah, the actual eye doctor.
Okay. And what did they think it was initially in the first visit?
So, well, she kind of looked at my eye through the microscope and then told me that I didn't have an abrasion, didn't really say too much else, and gave me some eye drops. So I'm pretty sure that she put me on like steroids, antibiotics, like eye wetting, like lubricant eye drops as well. And I paid. You always have to pay in Bali.
And were you happy with that prognosis at that point? Because it was obviously day one, so... Yeah,
I mean, she didn't really give me a lot of information. And in hindsight, I probably should have asked a lot more questions, but I think I was just really stressed with what was going on, and I didn't know what questions to ask because I'd never sort of been through this before. And I don't know. I probably could have asked more questions, but
How were you to know at that point that it was going to escalate to this point? Because it just started off as a sore eye.
I mean, she said that I didn't have an abrasion, and that was the thing that I was the most worried about. So to me, if she's like, okay, you don't have an abrasion, it's just an infection, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I trust that these antibiotic eye drops that you've given me are going to solve the problem. Yeah.
So a few days passed, and I mean, for what I remember, you started to feel a wee bit better. And I think it was the Wednesday, we had a big day out planned with Saba Bay winery. We had run a competition on Instagram, so we had so many people who were going to join us on this big Christmas day out to go and visit Saba Bay and taste the wine, and it was just going to be such a great day. And on the day, you did feel a wee bit better. Like, you woke up and you did feel a wee bit better. I think that was like two days later. Yeah,
so the 2 days following my first hospital trip, my eye started to clear up, and I actually started to be able to see through it again. Like, I couldn't see 100%, but the cloudiness and the blur, I could tell had started to get better, and I could read my phone and stuff, and I wasn't as sensitive to light, and it just seemed to be moving in the right direction. And then, honestly, it was like I was tormenting with myself whether I should go to the winery with everyone or whether I should just stay home. And I just felt like I couldn't stay home because this whole day revolved around wandering too, me and Jamie. It was about people coming to meet us and hang out with us. And it was like they were coming, I don't know, in hindsight again, I should have just stayed home. But I thought things are looking up. the eye thing seems to be getting better. I feel better. I can see again. Like, surely it can't hurt me.
Yeah, I mean, I remember waking up that day and you woke up and you were in great spirits. You were determined to go, and you know, you said that your vision was better, the pain was subsiding, and I thought, brilliant, great, perfect timing. Let's go to Saba Bay and have a great day. And you had a great day, and again, drank a lot of wine, drank a bit of grappa, and then when we got back to the homestay, that's when it started to feel bad again, didn't it? It's like, that's when it started to deteriorate.
Just for clarification, I only had one glass of wine.
Right.
I pretended, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking about me.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. I knew that I shouldn't be drinking, and I drank like really slowly, just like literally like a sip from each glass, and it probably totaled like a glass of wine.
Yeah, well, I remember everyone again came back to our homestay. We were all in the pool. We were all having
I wasn't in the pool.
We were all having a great laugh, and then again you disappeared to the room, and then this is when it was like, that was you. I don't think you, like, this was the start of the downfall from that point. So again, I think I carried on that night, having more drinks, going out for dinner with friends. You went to bed, sore head, sore eye, and then on the Thursday, which I think was day 4 of this whole saga, is when you woke up, and well, we both woke up, and you woke me up, and you were in tears. You were in absolute agony.
Yeah, I basically had like stabbing pains in my eye. It was like more inflamed than it had been the previous 2 days, sorry. I don't know, this different symptoms just came out of nowhere. Like out of absolutely nowhere, it was like up here, and then it just went downhill really quickly.
It was quite scary when I woke up and you were like in tears with pain, and like physically I couldn't see anything. Obviously it transpired that, you know, your eye pressure was through the roof, so it was like almost like your eye was like bulging into your brain and into your head, so that you could feel pressure up into your head and stuff like that. But I couldn't physically see anything, but it was quite scary to see you like so upset and like so like in so much distress. So again, we rushed. We got a Gojek. A Gojek is the taxi in Bali, so we got ourselves a Gojek. Obviously we didn't want to take a moped because Ivana didn't want to open her eyes, and she was the navigator, so I would never have found my way to the hospital. So it was always a Gojek from this point in the back of a cab to go to the hospital. And when we got there was no ophthalmologist available. It was just
so apparently we'd come outside of that like morning clinic time when there is no ophthalmologist there. And you remember like my eye, honestly, it was like someone was continuously just stabbing me in the eyeball. It hurt so much. And like, I knew that if we just accepted the fact that they told us there was no ophthalmologist and walked away or just didn't do anything, that I wasn't going to get the care that I needed. And I just felt like this was pretty serious and someone needed to like check my eye.
Well, I remember when we walked in, all the locals were looking at you. And all the nurses who were there looked very, very concerned. And they were telling us obviously the ophthalmologist wasn't available, but you could see there was genuine concern there. As much as, you know, overall we're painting this picture that Bali medical care isn't quite up to standard, it isn't up to scratch. They've all got a lot of compassion and empathy. You could see there's genuine concern in their eyes. At every single stage there was always genuine concern. And there was like 4 or 5 of these female, what were they, nurses?
I think they were just nurses. Yeah.
And they took us in, like, because they could see that Ivana was you could see you were in clear distress. So they took us into this back room, and then they were like convening, like they were like talking to like an ophthalmologist via like WhatsApp or something like that.
Basically, like I was like, someone needs to see me, and the fact that they were like, there's no one here to see you, just made me like break down. And I think they saw me break down and were like, this is serious, we need to try and like help her. And like Jamie says, obviously I couldn't see because I had my eyes closed and like sunglasses over me and all sorts, because I was super light sensitive. They were doing their best for me with what they had, you know. And yeah, like Jamie says, we got taken through to the ER room, where they sort of triage people and before they sort of offload you to the next place. And there were 4 or 5 of them just gathered around, like looking at my eye. This time they actually did do one of the tests, which is basically putting a drop of like yellow dye into your eye, and what that does is show any like defects or anything wrong with the surface of the eye. And at that point they were like, yeah, you've got an ulcer. And I was like, what? I think they said abrasion, didn't they?
I think they said abrasion.
Yeah, and I was like, what the heck? Because the doctor the other day said that I didn't have an abrasion or any sign of one. So, like, what is going on? I couldn't understand it. And they gave me some antibiotic eye drops, like, looked at my eye through a few different microscopes. Like Jamie says, we're conferring with the ophthalmologist via text message.
Yeah, they were sending like the ophthalmologist like pictures of your eye. They were like just talking to the ophthalmologist via WhatsApp, and you could see there was like distress in their eyes. Like they weren't too sure if what they were doing was right, but you could tell that they were doing their best.
Yeah.
And it was clear as day when they put that liquid in your eye that you had this white abrasion or ulcer or whatever it was right in the middle of your eye. And then they gave you loads of different treatments in terms of like drops and pills to try and reduce the pressure in your eye, and obviously try and like clear, like help with this infection.
That's right, because I remember they did that little test where they like held sort of a stick instrument type thing up to my eyeball, and it measured the pressure without touching the eye, which was cool. And my pressure was like through the roof. And people often ask me like, why didn't you like get on a plane at that point and fly back to wherever? But I don't know if many of you out there know this, but it's actually really dangerous to fly with high eye pressure. I haven't actually looked into it, like I don't want to know what happens, but I'm assuming your eyeball bursts or you go blind or something drastic like that. Yeah. But you can't actually fly when you've got high eye pressure. So at that point, there was really nothing else I could have been doing other than maybe getting a second opinion.
So how did you feel at that point? Like how was your like confidence in the medical staff and the treatment that you were getting? How did you feel about that?
I was feeling a bit nervous. So I know that we've got a few friends that are nurses, and I remember saying to you, because I couldn't use my phone, I was like, please message Joe or Erin or whoever, and just like message all of them and get opinions on whether the medication that I've been given and the state of my eye matches up, and whether it's right and we're on the right path here, or I need to try and do something differently. And, you know, most of the answers that came back were like, I mean, yeah, like if you've got this, then you're sort of on the right track. And well,
I remember there was a girl who messaged us on Instagram who I think was an optometrist or an ophthalmologist, and she was like, she was spending a lot of time sending us a lot of information, and all the information that she was sending us was very reassuring. And my best mate used to work in Boots. I can't remember what it was, but you know, I think it was an optometrist. And he was saying, you know, these things usually take 3, 4, 5 days to clear. Don't worry about it. It won't get any worse than this. And everyone was saying the same thing. Everyone was just saying, it's just going to take time. Just take the drops. You know, just persist with it. Just stay in darkness and just rest. And that was it. But obviously it wasn't to be as easy as that.
Unfortunately not.
Now at this stage, like as soon as we left the hospital, that was you. From that point, you were living in complete darkness. You couldn't shower. So I had to like guide you to the toilet and bathe you. Like you were taking drops from 6 in the morning until 10 at night.
You're bringing back so many memories. Like,
you all right?
Sorry, I'm just getting emotional.
Why are you getting emotional?
I don't know.
Now that was a difficult point. I mean, getting up at 6 in the morning was not easy because I had to get up at 6 in the morning with you. Oh my
God, yeah, I had all these eye drops I had to put in like every hour of the day. It was hectic. Like.
It was scary. I mean, I had to dress you. I had to wash you.
I couldn't even go outside to like fill up my own water bottle because my eye was so light sensitive. It was serious.
Like I was sitting, I remember just like sitting outside the room, holding vigil, waiting on like the Jamie or the message on the phone to say, I want food, or I need my drops, or can you get me water, or can you take me to the toilet? And that was basically my life for the foreseeable from that point on. And I remember whenever I had to take you to the hospital, now hardly ever seen anyone at our guest house. Hardly ever seen anyone. And as soon as I had to take you out the door to the taxi, everyone seemed to walk by, and I'm like guiding you to the taxi, and you're like, you've got about 3 sets of glasses on, you've got your own glasses, your sunglasses.
Oh, God. I'm sure I had an eye mask.
And you're like that, like you're like putting your hands out in front of you, trying to feel, and like wailing, and I'm like, oh my God, everyone probably thinks that I've beat you up. Everyone probably thinks that I've punched you in the face. I've punched you in the eye. And like,
oh, God.
It just happened to be, as soon as you set through the door to the taxi, everyone just seemed to be leaving that day or coming back or heading to the kitchen. And I was like, oh my God, everyone is going to think that I've battered Ivana. And honestly, it was like, I'd be like, she's got an eye infection. She's got an eye infection. And like, I'd be sitting in the kitchen, like when you're in the room, and someone would walk by and I go, what's that? What's that? Oh, she's got an eye infection. They wouldn't even ask me any questions. I just had to make sure that everyone knew that I never beat you up and you in fact had like an eye infection or something like that.
And I just remember not giving like, I was just like, get me to the car.
Yeah.
Like, F this. Like, I didn't care at all. I was like, just, I need to do what I need to do, and that's that. Like,
so I remember that time we went and we seen the group of nurses who didn't know what they were doing. They said, like, come back tomorrow if it doesn't get better, or come back the following day, which would be the Saturday, just for a checkup. So on the Friday, the pressure had subsided, like, so it had reduced. So you thought, well, I can just wait until the Saturday and go so we can go back and see the actual ophthalmologist, the specialist. So on day 6, this Saturday, we went back and seen the ophthalmologist, and this was the first time you'd seen this guy. So can you remember what he said to you and the whole process?
Yeah, basically for everyone listening, every time I went back to the hospital, it was a different ophthalmologist because they all only work on a specific day. So this guy, I think he looked at my eye, said that it was progressing okay. I think he maybe changed the drops a little bit, and then was like, come back in 3 days if it's still not healing, or it got worse, or you feel like this is not working.
I remember that he was just like, he was very blasé. It was like very much, you know, is this what you've been taking? Okay, continue taking that. I think he added a couple more drops for you to take. We had no idea what we were putting in your eye at this point. And I mean, we were taking pictures of it, sending our friends back home. A lot of them were saying, why are you taking this? Or you should be taking that. And you know,
Mr. Google.
And Mr. Google, aye, Mr. Google. So again, it was very much just like, it's going to take time. It's going to take time. Now, this is day 6. This is when the alarm bells started ringing for me, because people had been telling us, people who were in the know, you know, this is like a 3 to 5 day thing. So when it gets to day 6 and it's, you know, there's no sign of it getting better, this is when alarm bells started ringing to me. So he told us to come back on the Tuesday because we were due to fly on the Thursday. He says, by Tuesday, it should have cleared up. Come back for another checkup just to make sure that everyone's okay, that you're good to go to fly, and we'll just check your medication and stuff like that. Now, on the Tuesday, which is day 9, this is when everything changed, for me especially. I remember waking up, and when I wake up, obviously at 6 in the morning, put your drops in. I remember waking up that morning, and I looked at your eye, and I had to like use my biggest and my best poker face because obviously the first thing you see in the morning is my reaction to your eye, you know?
Yeah.
And when I looked at your eye, I honestly thought, fuck, like your eye is gone. Like I honestly thought, aye, because like the white of your eye was like, it was like on fire. It was like red. It was like such a harsh red. And then like the pupil and the iris and all that kind of stuff, that was just white. So it was just literally like fiery red and like cloudy white. And I was like, oh my God, like my heart sank to the pit of my stomach, but my face was just like, oh yeah, it looks fine, it looks all right. But I was like, we need to go to the hospital like as soon as possible. And then obviously we went back to see this guy because we were due to go back and see him anyway that day. And I remember his reaction. He was like, you could tell. I mean, the thing is, the Indonesians, you know, they could speak to each other in Indonesian. You could see like he was talking to his like nurses or optometrists, and you could see there was genuine concern in his eye. And they're like, you could see they're Googling things and stuff like that. But what they were Googling at that point was the number from the Nusa Dua hospital. Now, we were in Denpasar at this point. which is like no central Bali, but you know, it's kind of like in the middle of Bali. And Nusa Dua is like probably the most southern point of Bali, about an hour and a half drive.
It's like southeast, yeah.
It's like an hour and a half drive. An hour drive?
Well,
an hour
it
and a half
was,
drive?
Google Maps said it was going to be 45 minutes, but obviously with traffic and stuff, it's way longer.
So what he was basically doing is he was calling Nusa Dua to get in touch with the infection specialist, because clearly the infection in your eye had become really fucking severe at that point.
Yeah.
And so he wanted to get you down to the infection specialist. And good old Bali, he told us, you need to go to Nusa Dua. I was like, well, where the fuck is Nusa Dua? We've never been to Nusa Dua before. So he wrote down the address, and he's like, oh, by the way, you need to get there before, was it 7 o'clock?
7:30 p.m.
7:30, and it was like 6 o'clock at this point. So it was like, well, we've got an hour and a half to get there before like the infection specialist knocks off for the night and goes home. So it's like, well, we need to get there. So I went for a Gojek straight away.
Yeah.
And as soon as we got in the cab, I said to the guy, like, we need to go to Nusa Dua at the hospital. He was like, why do you need to go to Nusa Dua to the hospital? And I was like, her eye. And obviously Ivana at this point, a wee bit upset. He looks at her eye, he takes one look at her eye, and he's like he's like bombing through the back roads. He's like fucking dodging fucking dogs and cars and going through all the, like, taking all the shortcuts. The guy showed genuine concern.
No, he was really nice about it.
He was so funny. He kept like, are you okay? You okay? Yeah. And he was like, I can remember it. He got us there in like 27 minutes.
No,
it wasn't 27 minutes. But he got us there in like record time, because he was like genuinely concerned. Again, I keep going back to this, like, as much as we might bag out the medical care and the medical facilities of Bali, like the Indonesian people, they genuinely care about you. Like, they've got genuine compassion. They might not be the most skilled when it comes to the medical care, but every one of them showed genuine care.
For sure. Yeah.
You know? So we went to Nusa Dua. We got into this big old hospital, and it just seemed to be a hospital full of locals.
Oh,
like,
my God.
You know?
Again, we got taken, do you remember, like, they walked us to the Western Wing, which had nobody in it. It was immaculate. It had like flowers and incense and all sorts going on, like free water and stuff. But we had to walk through where all the locals have to wait, and it was night and day. Like, we're talking about people like just sitting in the corridor, like
it was overflowing.
Hundreds of people.
It was overflowing, and then it was all Indonesian people. It was all locals, and then you had these two, like, blonde and a gingery red looking guy cutting through, like, leading this blonde girl who's got no eyes, and everyone was just looking at us, you know.
Like, so, what are you doing here?
What are you doing here? What has happened here? But I remember sitting in the waiting room, and at this point, I'd put a picture of your eye on Instagram, because we were updating people regularly, because people were showing a genuine...
You were.
I was. Phone. Like, people were showing genuine concern about your eye. And I remember between, you know, putting the picture on the stories from the hospital visit down to Nusa Dua, so within that hour and a half, we got over 400 direct messages on Instagram. It was just like, I couldn't believe how much people were concerned, the amount of well wishes that came through, and that was quite overwhelming at that point. That was so nice that people were showing that much genuine concern for you and your eye. You know what I mean? So that kept us amused. That kept us company whilst we sat in the waiting room to see the infection specialist. Now, can you remember what happened when you seen the infection specialist?
God. So we basically got led to her little officey room thing. Sat down, she looked at my eye through the microscope, said that she didn't understand what was going on. Basically, she was like, oh, it should be healing. Like, look at the drops you've got. They should be doing their thing. And in my head, I was like, but you're a specialist. Like, she basically did the same thing as the other doctor who referred us to her did. Looked at my eye, was like, it's not working, but it should be working. Never said, like, this is looking really bad or anything. Never did any tests. So, like, didn't even suggest to take a sample to figure out what was going on. Yeah,
I mean, at this point, obviously we were getting a lot of, like, feedback and recommendations from people in the know. And by this point, you know, day 9, and this, people are recommending to us that, you know, they should be taking scrapings of your eye. They should be trying to figure out what the infection is so they can, like, combat it in the best possible way. So when you see the infection specialist, you assume that you're going to get a wee bit more of a specialised treatment than the ophthalmologist at this point. But she just basically sat back in her chair and says, well, keep taking the drops and it's just going to take time. And then we were like, well, we need to leave on Thursday. Can you get us a fit to fly letter because we need to get out of here and all that kind of stuff. And it was at this point, as soon as I seen her reaction and her complete lack of,
she
action.
just didn't. I don't know what kind of training they get over there, but it's almost like the last 2 doctors that I saw literally had no idea what to do with me. Mm-hmm. Like that was kind of the end. Like, oh, the drops aren't working for you. Well, they should be. Like, we don't know what to do now. And it was at that point that I kind of went like, F this, like get me to. Well,
that's the thing. Like, I remember
Australia.
As soon as I seen her reaction and a complete lack of action, I thought, no, fuck this. I'm not. I can't. And your eye that day it looked beyond repair. Like I was genuinely scared that you were going to lose your eye at that point. So I was like, no, fuck this. I am not wasting another day here. And at that point, I was also thinking, I was like, what about the poor Indonesian people? Like, what if you were an Indonesian who going through a similar situation where you probably would lose your eye, but thankfully for us, we were going to head to Australia anyway, to Perth in Australia, to see your parents for Christmas and New Year. So we had this flight booked. So I had a quick scan to see if I could bring the flight forward. I could. I brought it forward to like the next morning, which was like less than 12 hours from the point that we made the decision.
Yeah.
So I brought the flight forward. It meant we now had to travel from Nusa Dua back to Canggu. And I had like 4 hours to pack both of our bags, where it usually takes me fucking 12 hours to pack my own because
I normally pack yours,
because I hate packing. So I had to like frantically pack both of our stuff. I think that's the worst that your case has ever been packed.
It didn't matter at that point.
You couldn't see it anyway, so it doesn't matter. And that was it. So between seeing the infection specialist and then going to Australia, it was literally like less than 12 hours. I remember we went, it was a really early flight we had the next morning. And again, I had to guide you through the airport. Like we had to produce the fit to fly letter, because without that, they might not have let you fly, because obviously you were in clear distress, your eye was in such a bad way.
Again, I like the eye pressure thing. Yeah. I'm pretty sure like the airline, if they know you've got a problem and it's a noticeable problem, like they will ask you about it. And if you don't have the fit to fly letter in some occasions, like they actually won't let you on the plane.
But that's a good thing for people to know. It's like, if you are injured in any way, shape or form abroad, your airline might refuse you to get on the plane if you don't have this fit to fly letter. So
not in all circumstances, but I mean, it's always better to have it than not.
Exactly. It's just something to be like mindful of if you are injured, that, it's better to just get seen just for a fit to fly letter, if nothing else, know. So I remember getting to Perth, and I've never been so relieved to see your mum at that point. I was like, because up until that point, I was having to make the calls, like, because you couldn't see. So I was having to make the judgment calls. I was having to look after you. I was having to feed you, bathe you, run about after you, which obviously I don't mind doing. It's just the call of duty. But I felt like there was a lot of responsibility on my shoulders for your eye and your vision. So to see a parent at that point was just like, I felt like the weight of the world had been lifted from my shoulders to see your mum. And obviously it was really nice for you to see your mum as well. Obviously your mum was worried about you at that point, so it was nice for her to see you. And we pretty much dropped our bags off at the house and we went straight to St. Charles Gardner Hospital.
Yeah, not before I had a few cheese and crackers though.
Of course,
like stuffing, like when you come home to your mum's house and there's such nice food in the pantry, and it's food like I haven't had for like years because I've been away from Australia and New Zealand. I was like, oh my gosh, these crackers, my favourite. Oh, good cheese. I was like, let me eat this before I go to the hospital.
Only you, who has the possibility of losing their eye, the priority is cheese and crackers. Yeah. You know what I mean? So we went for cheese and crackers via cheese and crackers to the airport. Hospital. Sorry, we went to Sir Charles Gardner Hospital. So went straight to emergency there. Yeah. Straight to emergency, and I thought they were really good. I mean, we sat there for like half an hour? Maybe
just over that, like 40 minutes or something.
And then they took us into a side room. I think it was a nurse that seen you originally.
No, it was a doctor.
A doctor?
She was like a senior doctor, yeah.
Okay. And then what happened? She called...
So that was basically triage. So she kind of took one look at my eye and was kind of knowledgeable enough to know that she didn't know enough about what was happening to my eye to be able to help me. So it was around like 4:30 p.m. at that point. And she knew that the ophthalmologists like go home kind of in the afternoon around that time. So she was like, before we do anything else, let me make this really quick phone call to the ophthalmologist that's like on rota right now, and get that person to come and see you before they like go home. So luckily she did that. So I had a trainee ophthalmologist come and basically look at my eye.
I remember that. He was just like a young guy, and I remember like, again, I thought we just had all these experiences of the Bali doctors, and we get this like young up and coming ophthalmologist or whatever he was, and he comes in, he looks at your eyes, like sitting back, you can see he's never seen anything like this before, not even in his textbooks, you know, and he's like, do you mind if I take a picture of this and send it to like my senior like teachers or whatever? So he's taking a picture of your eye through the machine, and then he's like sending it via WhatsApp again. Yeah. It's like the modern medicine these days. That's how it works. Yeah. So he's sending it through WhatsApp. But he was really good. He was really calm. That's what I liked. He was very calm at this point, because at this point I was not calm, because I thought, fucking hell, our eye's in such a bad way. But he was really calm, and he basically said, like, we're going to admit you. We're going to admit you here and now, and we're also going to take scrapings of your eye, which gives me the heebie-jeebies. But who was the guy that came in?
Okay, so basically what happened was he was really good about how much information he was sharing with me, and he did let me ask him questions. And what he was saying to me was like, you've got an infection as well as like a few injuries or whatever to your eye. It is very serious. To me, it looks atypical. You know, I've shared the information with my senior, and yeah, we're going to admit you because you need help. And then basically in any Western hospital, they do tests to determine like what it is that they need to help you fix. You know, what is causing the infection in your eye. So they called like a lab technician,
that's
or
what
I don't know the proper name for it, but basically this guy turned up and he had this massive yellow like medical box. It's like one that you see people like run around, like that needs to be kept cold, or like,
it's like one you would imagine like the coronavirus was like, you know, transported in. That's what it looks like. If you were to transport the coronavirus, that's what you would transport it in.
And he opened it up, and it had all these like petri dishes and like scalpels and all sorts of like. God. Yeah. And anyway, for the next, I don't know, few minutes, I sat there while the ophthalmologist put numbing drops into my eye, and then took 6 scalpel scrapings of my eyeball to try and figure out what was causing the infection.
So basically what they were going to do is they were going to grow your infection in a petri dish in a lab somewhere, and then they were going to treat it with all these different like antibiotics and all that kind of shit to see which one was the most effective.
Well, they need to figure out first, is it bacterial, viral, fungal, or amoeba? Because all of those get treated differently, and different drugs help to kill them differently. And so in order to get rid of the infection, you actually need to know what it is you're trying to fight. So yeah, that takes maybe 2 to 3 days for whatever they've scraped out of your eye to grow in the petri dish in various conditions in the lab. And then once they've done that and they've identified what it is, they test different antibiotics or whatever treatment against it to see what's the most effective, because there's obviously different medications that are different strengths and help different things.
Well, I remember at that point I felt the most relief I've ever felt, because it was like, you know, now that you're going to be in hospital, you're in good hands. Like, you're going to get the best care. With obviously Perth and Australia are renowned for having some of the best eye doctors in the world, and the fact that you're going to be here under the 24-hour supervision, I was like, thank God for that. Like, as much as me and your mum are like could do our best, like there's only so much we can do, but you know, having the care of all these nurses and doctors and all that kind of stuff, I felt so relieved at that point. I was like, thank God they've admitted you at this point.
And I needed it, because basically from that point onwards, like from when I got into my hospital bed and the nurse came along and did like the admission, from that point I was getting eye drops, like different types of eye drops, put into my eyes every single hour of like the next few days. So all through the day, all through the night, a nurse would come every hour into my room, like whether I was sleeping or not, wake me up, put eye drops in my eye, and then leave, and then again come back in an hour. And that was my life for like the next few days.
Yeah, I remember you were very tired because you weren't getting any sleep.
Well, I couldn't sleep. How do you sleep for like, I don't know, you'll be lucky to get like 45-minute window between each eye drop. Like it's just impossible.
Yeah, I remember when coming to see you, you were almost like deliriously tired. Like you'd just fall asleep at random points, like in the middle of a conversation. I mean, you do that normally, but even more so when you were in hospital. So I remember you were really deliriously tired, but obviously this is the kind of care that you required.
Yeah.
And this is the stuff that should have been happening, which wasn't happening in Bali. That was the differential between the two, you know, which is why I was so like relieved to see the treatment that you were getting, like round the clock care. So how did you feel like being in the hospital in Perth? Did you feel a lot like did you feel more comfortable? Did you more happy with the treatment? Did you feel more reassured?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely felt like they knew what they were doing. I mean, as soon as I was in that triage in the ED and they were taking the scrapes from my eye, I was like, this definitely feels like the right thing that they should be doing, and this is what I should have been, like the treatment I should have been getting in Bali, except they don't do that sort of thing over there. So I was like, I'm in totally good hands. Like I totally trust the doctors, and I think my attitude was very much like, there's nothing I can do about this except to just take it step by step and day by day.
Yeah. I mean, you became very popular in there. Every time I came in, you had a new pal. You know, you became friends with the nurses. You were going down to see I don't know where you were going, but you were getting wheeled somewhere, and you had a wee friend that you went down to the...
So like every morning, they basically had to, I got wheeled in a wheelchair down to the eye clinic. So the doctor could check on my eye, see how everything was going, whether it was improving. And every day, there was another woman actually on my ward. Her name was Tan. Hi, if you're listening. I miss you. She could walk, but she basically had another eye problem where she had to get an injection into the eyeball. Well, quite a lot of the days that I saw her, she was getting injected into the eyeball. So we would like go down to the eye clinic together, and she was really chatty, and it was just nice to like have someone in the hospital to talk to. So yeah, made friends with her. And then it's funny because I've actually seen her, like I go back to the outpatient eye clinic now, and I've seen her at a few follow-up appointments. So that's quite funny.
You also had a few visitors as well. We had Gavin Mick, aka Life Before Kids.
Yep.
And we also had Genesis, who came in to visit us.
Yeah.
Jen, that was lovely. She brought in loads of lovely goodies. She even brought me a can Iron Brew, so I instantly fell in love with Jen. She's now a very good friend of ours, and so much so she's became our Pinterest VA from that visit.
Yeah, she's working with us now, which is so cool. Yeah, like people were just super generous and kind. I remember I jokingly mentioned like, Ivana's in this hospital, feel free to send her a wee flower or a wee chocolate or something like that, and then next minute, yeah, she's visiting me and she's bought gifts for me and you. No, not just Jen. Like you were getting flowers. Oh God, yeah. Every day the nurse like came in with a different bouquet delivery of flowers, and it was actually getting embarrassing because it was like a florist in there. Like nurses would come in, they'd be like, "It smells amazing in here," and then I had all my flowers arranged like around the sink because that was kind of the only place where they fit, and yeah, they were coming in and just like going and smelling all the flowers, and then a nurse would come in sometimes and be like, there's been another delivery, and I'd be like, oh my God, who is this from? Like, you know, I was like the only one on the ward getting all these crazy like flowers and things, and I actually told one of the nurses, because he was like, who are these from? Like, you have so many admirers. And I was like, oh, you know, me and Jamie, we do this Instagram thing. And yeah, just people I know, or don't know rather, are sending me flowers. And he's like, oh, be careful. You don't want heaps of randos coming to the hospital to visit you. It was just really funny about it. But yeah, it got a bit embarrassing because I was getting so many gifts. It was ridiculous. Your room was full. It was like... But I was very grateful. Like it really cheered me up. So like, just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who did send chocolates and flowers and messages. Yeah, I did really appreciate it. It was nice because it kind of broke up your day because you had this routine of like breakfast, lunch, dinner, eye drops. So it was nice to see like
be broken up by like a big get well soon balloon, or like, you know,
The balloon was hilarious.
new
Loved
chocolates, or like, you know, visitors, or like, you know, flowers. So it was really nice. And your room, you know, I decorated your room, and it was, again, I only jokingly put it on Instagram, but it just shows you the power of connection.
Yeah.
It just shows you that, again, I'm not going to go on about it, but you don't chase the numbers, you chase the connections on Instagram. And people, you know, the 400 DMs, the over 400 DMs, when your eye was really bad, and then when you were in hospital, people sending you all these things. Like, we are very blessed, we're very lucky to have so many people, you know, that care about you more than me, I think.
No,
Like
people care about you too. It's just obviously people just don't imagine someone that they have that connection with going through something like that. So
no, it was really cool. It was really cool. And also, what about that lovely big hamper that you got?
Oh yeah. So like, I don't know if everyone knows this, but I was actually in hospital over Christmas and New Year's. So in the lead up to Christmas, obviously the hospital does things to try and like cheer the patients up. So all through the corridors, they have like decorations and like Christmas cheer, like, what do you call them? Tinsel.
Yeah.
You know, carolers come in and sing in the hallways. Like, it really is like the movies. And one day I went down to the eye clinic, and then I got back to my room, and there was this massive hamper, like a Christmas hamper of goodies, sitting on my little desk. And yeah, it was from one of the church groups in the area. So they made all these like hampers with goodies, like chocolate, chips, popcorn,
There was everything
like
in
so
there.
much yum stuff from cool little bouquet brands in there. And yeah, like delivered them to all the patients in the ward. And
Not all the patients?
Well, no, that's actually right. They didn't. I did.
Only the patients who ticked the box. What did you say you were?
I forgot about that. So when I first got admitted to hospital and I got my little bracelet, sorry about that, they asked me if I was any particular like religion, and I just said like Catholic, even though I'm not a practicing Catholic. So everyone, like Jamie and my parents, think that I got the bouquet of hampery stuff because I ticked that box.
So just a wee tip: if you're going into hospital, whether you're an atheist or anything like that, always tick the Catholic box, because you should see what was in this hamper. That we're still eating. We're still eating through that hamper. So, you know.
No, it was so nice. Like, it definitely like cheered me up. And I did get visited by the chaplain a couple of times, and they tried to convince me to come to Christmas Mass. To be honest, like, I don't really go to church, even though my mum would love it if I did.
Not even for a big hamper.
No, I would have gone, but I really didn't feel well, and I didn't want to go by myself. So I didn't go. But yeah, what else?
Well, there was one thing that I was introduced to in the hospital, which I've never seen before, but apparently it's like an Australian delicacy, and that is Milo. I've never went and seen, like, you know, tea, coffee, and something else. It's just usually tea, coffee, maybe sugar. But it was tea, coffee, and Milo when I went to the wee station, the wee tea making station in the hospital. I was like, what the fuck is Milo, and why is it so why is it up there and the same platform as like tea and coffee? Why is it so important? So I still don't even know what Milo is.
It's like a chocolatey malt drink, and it's just something that everyone as a kid growing up in New Zealand and Australia has had throughout their childhood. Like, I actually have memories where mum would take me to the New World supermarket in Devonport where we lived, and there would be like this van outside, and this guy would just be like making Milos for people. You could like buy a Milo. It's like you could buy a sausage at a sausage sizzle. I don't know, you just grow up drinking Milo. It's just one of those things.
Is it like chocolate milk?
Not like chocolate milk. It's sort of like a hot chocolate, but a bit more malty, so it's not like full on chocolate.
Okay.
I still love Milo to this day, and I was very happy that the hospital supplied Milo. I actually had the nurse that nursed me at night time. He was my favourite. His name's Carl. He was actually originally from New Zealand, and every single night when like he was kind of done with me because he was about to hand over to the next nurse, he would come in, put my 6:00 a.m. drops into my eyes, give me like my oral antibiotic, and then make me a Milo. And I actually loved him. I was like, looked forward to my Milo every day. And there was one day that he didn't make it for me, and I think it was like Christmas Day, and I was just like, ugh. But I forgave him. Aye,
Carol sets the bar far too high for me to live up to. There's no chance I'm getting up at 6 a.m. to make you a Milo.
Yeah.
I've done my bit. I put the drops in at 6 a.m. That's me.
Fine.
I've done my bit.
I can make my own Milo. One other thing I will say as well about just like gifts and Christmas vibes at the hospital was that on Christmas Day there was a guy dressed as Santa who walked the halls of every ward in the hospital handing out presents. So Sir Charles Gardner Hospital, like the board or whatever you want to call them, they'd actually bought a present for every single patient.
That's amazing.
And that morning went to hand them out, which was so amazing because you just don't think that would happen, or I'd never been in hospital before, so I didn't know. But yeah, I ended up with a little toiletries bag, and I actually used it like it was such a practical, thoughtful gift. So I just wanted to say thank you for that, because that was really nice.
Now, one thing I will say about that hospital was it was very, like, you had a room to yourself, which was vital.
Thank God for that.
Because you needed to be in darkness. Like, there was shared rooms, but you got one to yourself. You were in there for 3.5 weeks. You were getting
2.5.
No, it was 3.5.
Was it 3.5?
It was 3.5 weeks.
Oh my God.
It was 3.5 weeks you were in there, almost a month.
My brain tried to forget all this.
Well, I don't forget. I was in there every day. So 3.5 weeks you were in there. You were getting breakfast, lunch and dinner, and they meals were, they were very delicious. I was always like, keep my eye on like the leftovers. So I got plenty of like wee chocolate cakes and stuff like that. So like you were absolutely spoiled in there. Like the nurses were all so nice.
Yeah.
And you were just really well looked after. You could not have asked for or hoped for any better care than what you got in Australia. The one thing I will say is, though, there was no Wi-Fi in that hospital, and for two people who operate very heavily on Wi-Fi, that was an issue, obviously, because you had nothing to do in the hospital. So I went to Telstra in Perth and got a wee dongle and a SIM card, which I was going to use so I could work, but as soon as I took it into the hospital and showed you one episode in Netflix later, and then you confiscated it, and it was in hospital with you. And we actually spent our time wisely. We watched the whole series of The Witcher.
Yeah.
How good is that?
Toss a coin
to your Witcher.
Yeah, no, it was good. Like, honestly, in the first few days that I was in hospital and I was getting the eye drops in literally every hour, I couldn't do anything. Like, that was me. I was like just asleep in my bed or trying to rest. I just had my eyes constantly closed. I couldn't do much. And I, you know, like Jamie said, I was feeling so tired. Like Mum, Dad and Jamie would come in, and it would be at the point where I just was too tired, and I would just have to say to them, I am so sorry. Like, I know you've come in to visit me and talk to me and stuff, but I just can't. I need to shut my eyes and I need to go to sleep. But then eventually I got a bit more energy and was starting to feel a bit better as the infection was sort of wearing off.
Sometimes we would even crack the blind to have a wee look at the sunset. You know what I mean? That was progress.
Yeah, and yeah, we ended up watching a lot of Netflix. So once my eye I could open my other eye, my good eye, and actually look at screens and stuff, and I wasn't so tired. I was like, what can I do? And ended up watching Netflix. I did ask the doctor if it was okay for me to look at a laptop, and he said yes, no restrictions.
Yeah. So. No, it was fine. I mean, Netflix got us through, and as I say, The Witcher was recommend it. Netflix recommendations 10 out of 10. The Witcher. No, for me, being in that hospital every day started to affect my vision because I was always in darkness. You know what I mean? And I started to become like, I started to walk at the hospital like fucking I was very sensitive to light, so really I genuinely did start to affect how sensitive I was to light, just being in darkness with you constantly. And
imagine in my situation, so by the time, sorry, I keep hitting the microphone, such an amateur. By the time I had got out of hospital, I'd been in the darkness for a whole month, pretty much, right? Like pretty much.
Yeah, you had been, apart from when we cracked the blind every now and again.
Or like there were a few times where Jamie took me for a wee walk outside.
That's true. Down to the morgue.
But I was still wearing sunglasses and stuff.
So. We went for a cheery wee walk down to the morgue.
Took me to the morgue.
Because that's the only place that had like an outdoor area. So we had some lovely dates down by the dead people. That was lovely.
Lovely.
No, the good thing about this whole experience in Australia is, we had travel insurance, but we were like, well, because I was something to deal with, obviously. I was dreading all the red tape, all the having to fill in all the paperwork and all the updates to the insurance company and stuff. But when we spoke to the head nurse or
the ward nurse?
The ward nurse, the person who runs the ward. And she said to us, she'd done a bit of digging, and she says, well, in fact, Ivana's treatment here is going to be free. It's going to be free as part of the ANZAC and the Commonwealth Agreement. And I don't know if it's because you're from New Zealand or because your registered address was in the UK.
Yeah, it was because of the address. So when I got admitted to hospital, obviously we're like digital nomads, so we're not based anywhere. And And she asked for my address, and I was like, I mean, what address do I give you? Do I give my parents' address? Do I give Jamie's parents' address? What I just
Well,
like,
our
I was like, I
address-
don't have an address.
Like, our official address is my
Yeah.
dad's house in Scotland, because that's where
Yeah.
everything's registered.
But she basically said to me, it came down to like, where do you pay tax? And so the most recent place or current place I pay tax is the UK. So I put down Jamie's dad's address.
Yeah.
And because of that, we were told that, treatment would be free because there is a reciprocal, like, emergency medical agreement between the UK. I don't know if Canada's part of it, Australia and New Zealand, where if you are in an emergency situation and you need emergency treatment, your treatment is covered by that agreement.
Yeah, I mean, it's not foolproof, so you still need travel insurance.
Yeah.
So don't rely on the fact that you're in the Commonwealth or part of the ANZAC agreement. But for us at that point, Ivana qualified, so that was like a blessing. Again, we were covered by our travel insurance, but it just saved a lot of hassle of having to deal with travel insurance, because that is never easy. I mean, we did claim back everything that we'd done in Bali.
Yeah.
And this should have been a red flag, because your entire medical bill from Bali, now this has seen infection specialists, this has seen ophthalmologists, this is all the medical care that you had, all the treatment that you had. Your bill came at a total of £180.
Was that including or not excluding? I mean, including or excluding taxis?
That's including taxis to and from the hospital as well, by the way.
Oh, God.
So that should have been a red flag. Our insurance had a £50 excess, so we got £130 back. So your entire medical treatment cost us £50 all in so
Pretty
far.
much.
So that was a blessing, having that ANZAC Commonwealth thing with Australia.
Yeah.
So thank you, Australia, for the free medical care.
Thank you, UK. Thank you,
But
New Zealand.
always have travel insurance. We cannot say that strongly enough.
Yeah.
Because it did cover us in Bali, and if Ivana had to stay in Bali, it would have covered us. If we had to have went somewhere else, we might have needed it as well. So it's always good to have it. But so how did you feel when you like spending Christmas Day and New Year's Eve in hospital? Because that's obviously not what we had planned.
No, it was pretty shitty. Like, the whole reason that we were even coming back to Australia is because my parents live here, and I hadn't seen them in
It's like 5 or 6.
Well, I hadn't seen them. We hadn't been here since, was it 2016?
We hadn't been in Perth for about 2 or 3 years. You hadn't seen your parents since last year, but the last time that you'd spent Christmas and New Year with your parents was...
I mean, it was like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Or something like that in New Zealand.
Yeah.
So I was so excited to finally be going back to Australia to spend Christmas and New Year's with my mum and dad. Lo and behold, I just wound up in hospital during that time. So that was pretty hard.
I mean, it was hard, but we made the best of a bad situation.
Yeah.
We came in and seen you on Christmas Day and
Of
spent
course,
Christmas
yeah.
Day with you. Even your
Wouldn't
mum brought you in a
expect
feast of food, even though you were still getting your 3 meals a day. Your mum still brought you in like ham and pavlova, and you were well fed, that's for sure. And even on New Year's Eve, we stayed up until like visiting hours ended at 9 o'clock. So we stayed up until like 9:10. You know, we overstayed by like 10 minutes. So we made the best of a bad situation. You know, it wasn't ideal, but you were still seeing your mum and dad every day.
Yeah.
We were still all coming to visit you every single day. So even though you weren't with them at the house on Christmas Day, we still spent Christmas Day and New Year's together.
Yeah, like obviously it wasn't the homecoming I'd planned, and like it was a pretty hard thing to take when it, you know, you've spent so many Christmases away from home, and then finally you're going home, and then you're like, oh no, sorry, Christmas is in the hospital.
Yeah.
I was like, great. I mean, I tried not to like beat myself up too much about it.
Yeah.
I think I took it pretty well, to be honest.
Well, can I just say how proud I am of how calm and how optimistic you've stayed through this whole situation, because I know internally I've been freaking out, and at times externally I've been freaking out, and it's not even me that it's happening to. So you've never like wavered. You've always been so calm. Obviously, there's been
I don't know. I have my moments.
There's been a wee tear here and there, of course, but how have you managed to stay so calm through this situation?
Funnily enough, when I sort of found out what was really going on with me and that I'd need to be in hospital and all this sort of hoo-ha, I remembered back to a time in London where my very first job that I'd been working in for like 2.5 years, my bosses told me that I'd be getting made redundant, and then I had to go through this like whole redundancy process to try and fight for my job. And the funny thing in that situation was that me and Jamie had already decided we were going to quit our jobs in 7 months to go traveling the world. So for me to hold on to my job was like quite important. And I approached it like okay, I'm in this position right now here. What is the next step? What do I need to do to get to the next point? So it's about small wins. It's about not trying to solve every single problem all at the once.
Which is what I try and do.
Yeah, pretty much. You're really bad for that. Yeah. But it's about just taking one step at a time and knowing that you're moving forward in the right direction rather than moving backwards or trying to do too much
Becoming
to help
overwhelmed.
yourself. Yeah. And I really learned from that redundancy situation, like just to remain calm, not to stress about stuff, because stress is really bad for you. And it's just not worth it. And funnily enough, in that redundancy situation, I didn't end up keeping my job, but I came second. So I was like, someone bet me to the job, but I was the next best person for that job. But yeah, I think that whole situation really set me up for this situation, which, you know, I applied some of the same thinking about it. I was like, look, let's not get stressed out. This has happened. I can't change it. It is what it is. What are the doctors telling me I need to do next? Is there anything else I can do for myself? Don't overwhelm yourself by thinking about the gravity of the situation, and just, you know, small wins, day by day, step by step. So yeah.
Well, fair play. Yeah, because I would have been freaking the fuck out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty fine line between trying to make yourself stay calm and like thinking rationally, to being a complete mess and not being able to think about things or make rational decisions. So
where are you right now in terms of your prognosis? Like, where are you?
Well, so after I got released from hospital, I had to go back to the outpatient eye clinic for a checkup, pretty much like twice a week, I think I was going. And then those appointments have gradually been reduced down. So it got reduced down to a week, and then 2 weeks, and now I'm like 3 weeks. So it'll probably be a month soon between visits. And during that time, they've obviously been keeping an eye on me. We've had lots of eye puns during this whole situation, which have been quite funny. It's quite hard to avoid eye puns in some situations. But they're just keeping an eye on me, updating my medication, trying to sort of like remove any eye drops that I don't need anymore. And yeah, I'm in a bit of a funny, what would you call it? Like a transition
in limbo.
Yeah, limbo period where...
Like, what do you think will happen going forward, like regarding your vision and the possibility of surgery?
So, I had infectious keratitis, which was caused by a bacteria. The infection has healed. I also had an ulcer, which has healed, and I had a defect or a hole on the surface of my eye, which is healed.
So you had all three?
I had everything you could possibly want.
Yeah, lucky you. You always get good
lucky
things.
Me. I don't do things by halves, let's say that. So what I'm left with is a really, really large scar on my cornea, and it's right in the middle, and it's just less than like 1 centimeter large, and that is what is stopping me from being able to see properly. So what I can see is like shapes and shadows, and I can't read my phone or see screens or like letters or anything like that. If you imagine taking a big piece of like thick plastic and like looking through it with your good eye, is kind of like what I see. So right now, every time I go to my doctor for a checkup, she's like, in the future, we'll need to talk about corneal transplant. And when I first heard that, I was like shocked, because I don't know, I just believed that my eye would get better naturally on its own, or that over time things would improve and that I wouldn't need surgery. Obviously, we haven't had a conversation about surgery, so I don't know what the ins and outs of my personal situation are, because I haven't, spoken directly to the doctor about this. It's more like it's been mentioned. But sort of every doctor that I see and every person that I talk to seems to think that I'll need a corneal transplant. So of course, me being me, I go and Google everything. I've even joined a Facebook group of people who have been through corneal transplants or know deceased people that have been donors or are supporting a person that has been through a corneal transplant. And
Christmas night out. Is there a cornea transplant Christmas night out in that Facebook group, is there?
Yeah. No, it's a really supportive group. Like, I'm glad stuff like that exists. And I've also been exploring, like, is there any food that I can eat that will help my cornea heal? What else can I do?
Well, I was going to ask that. Is there any alternative treatments that you're either trying or you're considering or you're looking into?
So I'm just trying to eat a really balanced diet and get enough exercise. Obviously, it's great being here at Mum and Dad's because my mum is such a good cook and she cooks, like, everything that we eat is just super healthy, and I know that I'm getting, like, all the nutrients and minerals and everything that I need. I've obviously been exercising regularly, and I've started to obviously, like, just explore, like, try to arm myself with as much information as possible. So I've joined that group to try and understand, like, what the pros and the cons of either getting the surgery or not getting the surgery are. It's been really important to me to hear other people's experiences because obviously surgery is not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed that your eyesight's going to, like, heal 100%. It's not guaranteed that you're not going to have problems. So for me, I've always thought of it as like a last ditch attempt at fixing my vision if my vision is such a problem to me. Do you know what I mean? I've been talking to a few friends that are like chiropractors and things like that. I've been trying to figure out, is there some sort of link between my psyche that has sent signals to my brain to make my body, like, react like this? So is there something that I've experienced or perceived that got me into this situation, and therefore, like, can I consciously become aware of that and try to, like, heal that on my own?
So you're trying to see if there's, like, a mental link to your physical injury and if there's a way to reverse that.
And so I've just only started speaking to people and looking into that because I basically want to try and do everything that I can to heal as much as I can on my own. Obviously, I've only just started thinking about this, but I think that I don't want surgery right now, maybe delay it, but there's just so much to think about because the implications of surgery and the healing time, I mean, it is just going to affect, like, my whole life.
Of course.
So yeah, I'm in that awkward phase where the initial infection and injury has healed up as much as it can. The doctors are just monitoring me. It's too early to do any sort of surgery because I've had an infection, so they need to have a window of time for the eye to get in the optimal state that it can be operated on, and the outcome will be the best possible outcome. So yeah, I'm just trying to information gather, talk to people, really think about, like, process why I want, just, like, process a lot of stuff. One step at a time. Yeah.
That's cool. So in the meantime, like, your day-to-day stuff, how are you operating day-to-day? Is it affecting your day-to-day stuff, or, like, the way you go about your day-to-day business? What are you capable of doing now day-to-day?
Well, I got some really good advice from one of the doctors at the hospital, a young guy. He was basically like, don't let this stop you from living your life. Just try to go about your life as if this wasn't happening to you. So I was like, all right. And he was the guy that I was like, oh, can I use my laptop? Because I kind of need to be on it, like, quite a lot of the day. And he was like, look, no restrictions. Use it as you normally would. Obviously, my eye gets a little tired when I can't just sit on it for 10 hours anymore. Like, I do need breaks. So I've been trying to listen to my body. At first, when I got out of hospital, I found I struggled a little bit to get around because this eye works, like, my right eye works fine. I do need glasses, but when I'm wearing my glasses, it's fine. And my left eye is obviously, like, very blurry, so it doesn't really add much to my vision. So, like, the first time I went to the supermarket, it was quite difficult because I had to, like, turn my head all the way to the left to check whether I could, like, turn the corner or whether I was in someone's way or something like that. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, like, everyone out there that has peripheral vision, like, you guys are lucky, because I just felt like I was turning my head so much to just try and navigate my way around the supermarket, and it was ridiculous. And at the time, I had actually had a Botox injection into my upper eyelid. And so the reason they did that was to lower my eyelid so that the surface of the cornea could heal from the defect and the ulcer, because every time I blinked, it was like irritating my eye. And so I was walking around like with one eye shut and one eye open, and people would look at me and like they wouldn't know what to do, because obviously I was having trouble getting around, and they could see that something was wrong with me, but they couldn't necessarily tell like what it was. So it's one of those like disabilities that it's not obvious to people, like, and I almost felt like I should be like, oh sorry, I've got an eye thing, or like, oh sorry, I'm partially blind, like. But then I was like,
I was doing at the guest house. I just like got running
sorry,
about.
She's blind.
She's all right, she's blind. She's blind. I've not punched her. She's just blind. No.
But then I was like, I don't have to apologize to people. Like, I shouldn't have to say like, oh, sorry every time I need to like turn a corner or something. Another thing I had trouble with was like depth perception. So when I first went for a walk with you around the block and I was wearing my flat sneakers or whatever.
You were tripping up.
I was tripping up because I just couldn't tell, I couldn't see the dips in the concrete and stuff. So like for those first few weeks out of hospital, it was like quite difficult to get around with just one good eye.
So you're going through like an adjustment period of like used to being two eyes, and then you've kind of got one eye right now.
To rely on. Yeah. And it's gotten a lot better. So I haven't been able to see since like the 8th of December through my left eye. Okay. And so I feel like I'm just used to it now.
Yeah. So the body adjusts. The body's got an amazing way of adjusting to these things. So that's cool. No, I just want to say I don't give you enough credit for the kind of value that you bring to Wandering 2 and the value that you bring to me, because when I went back to Bali to like crack on with the blog and to start this podcast, every single conversation that I had with every single person that I met was always, how's Ivana? How's her eye? Is she getting better? When's she coming back to Bali? I felt like a fucking eye specialist when I was in Bali, because I spent 80% of my conversations talking about you and your eyes. So I just want you to know that you're loved, that people do genuinely care about you. And I honestly thought that I was the star of this show, but I don't think I am anymore. I think you're the star of this show, and I'm just like your sidekick. I'm just your court jester. So everyone is genuinely concerned about how your eye is. And again, I feel like an optometrist now after all this situation. You know what I mean? So this whole situation, like, how do you think it started? And what did the doctors say? How did this start? This whole situation, how did it start? What do you think happened?
It's so hard to say. Obviously, I wear contacts, so the wearing of contacts is going to exacerbate any sort of infection a million times over, because like obviously bacteria got trapped behind my contact lens somehow, and then. So
tell people, like, you don't wear dailies, you wear monthlies.
I wore monthlies, and no one ever, like when I went to the optometrist, they never said to me, hey, like straight up directly, like these are the pros and cons of wearing monthlies. Like they always ask you like, are you happy? And you're like, yeah, I guess so. And yeah, I feel like sometimes you just don't know what questions to ask until something happens to you. But
were you ever told when you were getting these monthly contact lenses that there was a risk of infection?
Well, obviously, not really. Like, for anyone out there that doesn't know the difference between, say, like dailies, fortnightlies, or monthly contacts, obviously you never sleep in your contacts, but monthlies are ones that you keep in like a solution in a box, and you put them in every day and take them out every night, or as much as you want to wear them throughout the month, and you replace them at the end of the month for a new pair. Mm-hmm. Fortnightlies, same thing. Dailies, obviously you wear them daily and then you chuck them out. And obviously with monthlies, because you're reusing them throughout the month, there's a greater risk of infection if you're not like hygienic with them. So all contact lens wearers know that they need to like wash their hands, disinfect their hands, make sure that they don't get like water on their contacts, that they are really clean and have a good routine and hygiene.
So you think it was a contact lens?
Yeah, I think that the wearing of the contact lenses definitely didn't help me, and I feel like the bacteria maybe came from like a pool that I was swimming in. Mm-hmm. And I mean, everybody knows that you shouldn't swim with your contacts, and for people that have like short-sightedness, I don't know, you might disagree with me, but it's it's really difficult to not go swimming like with your contacts, because
especially when you're in Bali,
you can't bloody see anything. Do you know what I mean? I never put my head under the water, and I never I always am really conscious of like not getting water in my eye or anything like that. And I do have good hygiene, so I don't know. I just think somehow a bacteria from a pool or even the shower water, because Bali water, you know that you're not meant to drink it from the tap. I never would like touch my face with my hands after like washing them in Bali water,
or even driving around on the scooter.
It could have been bacteria from a pool. It could have been something got in my eye when we were driving around if I wasn't wearing my glasses or sunglasses. It just got lodged in there.
I mean, one thing about Bali is the climate is like the perfect climate for infection to grow and thrive. You know, I mean, it's so hot, it's so humid, it's so, you know, it's not the cleanest place in the world. So, and you know, if you're going to catch an infection anywhere, it's probably going to be somewhere like Bali, like with that kind of climate, you know.
Tropical type humid place where infections thrive. Yeah, I think I was just like, obviously, I don't know, I say unlucky. Maybe it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't have been wearing my contacts. I don't know, but just so you know, this type of thing can happen to people that don't wear contacts as well.
This is what I was going to say. Is there anything that you would recommend to people to prevent this happening to anyone else?
Well, obviously, if you go to a country where the water is not good, so it's not good for drinking, then you want to avoid at all costs getting that water anywhere near your face, even if you don't wear contacts. Like, don't drink it, don't splash your face with it. Just use bottled water or filtered water or water that you've boiled and that you've let cool down. Obviously, like, hygiene's a really big thing. So if you're in those, I don't know, places that are just a little bit less hygienic, like, you really do need to be making sure you're washing the hands every time you go to the bathroom, you know, making sure you wash your hands before you touch your face if you've been in a pool. Like, you don't know what these pools, what the chemicals are that they put in to clean the pool.
What about regarding contacts? That's probably the biggest.
With contacts, oh my God, like, after going through this, I would say just like stay away from monthlies. I'd say, like, if you're traveling and you're going to a tropical climate or a humid hot climate, just get dailies, and don't risk it, and don't, it doesn't matter what type of contacts you wear, like, do not wear your contacts in the pool or in like lakes and rivers and stuff. While I was in hospital, the favorite story that the nurses used to tell me was about a guy that went swimming in a river in Bali. Okay, he was also wearing contacts, but still not the point. He obviously dunked his whole head under or went swimming in this river or something, and I think he got like an amoeba or some sort of like infection in his eyes. A
parasite.
Yes, a parasite or something like that. And he actually went blind flying from Bali to Perth to get medical treatment, and they managed to like save his eyes, but he does not have good vision in those eyes. Like,
wow. It's pretty scary.
Yeah, so it's not just pools, you know, it's other water, like bodies of water, like lakes and rivers and things. Like, you just don't know what's in the water.
It's what you, again, pun, it's what you can't see. You know what I mean? It's the parasites, it's the bacterial, it's the infection, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You just got to be very, very careful, especially if you wear contact lenses, especially if you're getting into swimming pools and stuff like that.
It's just not worth it, guys. Like, I wouldn't wish this on anyone.
No, not at all. Like, how do you feel this whole situation has like affected your mental health? Do you think you've coped well? Do you think it's, you know, at a detriment to your mental health, or you're going to get upset again?
Oh, I have my moments. I don't know. I think I'm naturally a very strong person mentally, so it probably could have affected me a lot more than it has. Like, obviously, I wish it never happened.
Of course.
And, you know, I'm always thinking, like, what could I have done anything to avoid this? And yeah, I'm sure that I could have. Love that you've asked me about mental health, and I've just like broken down. Typical.
Maybe you needed to talk about it, you know.
Yeah, obviously, like, if you do go through something like this, like, don't be afraid to talk about it, because it is, if you like hold your feelings inside, that you know, you break down.
Yeah. Can I just say thanks for the tears? That'll be great for my ratings.
It wasn't planned. I think I just get upset thinking about it, because lots of you won't know, but this truly has like affected my whole life. Like, down to like me and Jamie's relationship, thinking about whether I want surgery or not, the implications of like, if I do get surgery, I have to be in the same place for a minimum of 2 years, figuring out where is best to get surgery, understanding whether I can move forward with my career that is based off me looking at a laptop every day, figuring out like if I wanted to have kids, but I'm on all these crazy like antibiotics and steroids, how's that going to affect things? What are the pros and cons of like delaying surgery? Will I develop any other random?
But remember, you told yourself one thing at a time.
I know.
Don't overwhelm yourself with decisions.
But
it's a lot to think about.
I've also got like my UK residency is up in the air because of Brexit, and the fact that if I now need to apply for I've put off basically applying for this status that every European citizen that living in the UK has to apply for.
Yeah.
But like if I now apply and get the status, it means I have to go and spend 6 months of each year in the UK. It's just like there are so many things to think about that.
Yeah.
Yes, it can be overwhelming as much as you try to be level-headed and calm and take things step by step. Like, I think it's more just the fact that it's affected my whole life, and
Sorry. It's fine. I mean, the good thing is you've dealt with it so well.
Up till now.
No, you've dealt with it so well, and the good thing is you've got your mum and dad who love you and care about you and have provided so much love and support for you here. And obviously you've got me. I know I'm a bit of a joker at times, but I'm always going to stand by you. I'm always going to support you, and I'll help you through every step of the way. So
I know.
It's going to be fine. You know what I mean? You've done such a good job.
I know.
You know, I know it's got its implications, but we'll deal with that together. I know has it affected any of your goals going forward? Has it affected any of these things?
I mean, it's hard to tell at this point. Like, obviously, I'm someone who, like, as long as my doctor's like, it's not doing any damage to you, I'm just going to plow forward with, like, my projects and my plans.
Can I just say, like, I've never seen you this motivated for a long time. I've never seen you this determined. So if anything, you've turned this negative into such a massive positive, because last year you felt, I'm sure you won't mind me saying, you were lost, and you felt like you had no real direction. You didn't really know what you wanted. You felt like you knew what you wanted. There was a whole lot of like contradictions, and you weren't really looking after yourself physically or mentally and all that kind of stuff. But now, like, ironically, with this injury and this infection, I've never seen you so determined and so clear and so focused on what you want to do. You know what I mean? So you've done the best job ever at turning this negative into a massive, massive positive. And I genuinely think it's made us take a step back and have a look at our own relationship together, individually. And I think this is the strongest we've probably ever been. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
so I think sometimes the universe has got a weird way of working, and it works sometimes in painful ways as well. But I think this has been a very good thing for us ultimately, because it made us slow down, reevaluate what we're doing again together and as individuals. And I've never seen you so determined.
Yeah.
I've never felt so determined. We've never worked as well as a team as we have now. Like, we are ready to conquer the world. So
yeah.
I think in terms of our goals and all that kind of stuff, I think this has really helped us, you know?
Yeah, and I just think, like, regardless of what happens going forward, like, I don't want it to stop me from, like, living the life that I want to live, or, like, doing what I want to do.
Yeah, it won't. It won't. You'll be fine. What about in terms of, like, travel? Has it affected any way that you'll travel now? Will you be more mindful? Will you change the way you travel?
Obviously there's certain activities that I can't do. Like, I asked the doctor at my last appointment whether I could go swimming yet, because I haven't been able to swim. Like, I've only just, like, even just having showers is difficult because I'm still not allowed to let water anywhere near my eyes. But yeah, he basically said to me, like, if you can go swimming, I wouldn't go in a pool. If you're going to go in the sea, make sure you only go up to your waist, and you have to wear, like, massive goggles, because just, like, don't let water go near your eye. And I was like, oh my God, it's not even worth it. Like, I'm going to be that person at the beach that looks like a freak because I'm walking down to the water with goggles and I'm only getting in waist deep. So, I mean, yeah, there's things that I can't do. So I can't go snorkeling, swimming, diving. Basically, you just can't go near the water. And, you know, a lot of what we do in terms of travel is experience different activities that a city or a place has to offer. And you were talking about doing a Raja Ampat trip the other day, which we've been wanting to do for a while. And I just sat there and I thought, well, I'd be bloody stuck on the boat the whole time, because while everyone's off like snorkeling, I would just, you know, I can't, that's just something that I can't do right now.
Of course. But
I don't
again,
know if that's going to be forever, but like right now it's not a thing for me. So yeah, and I haven't been able to travel right now because I've obviously needed to go to all these appointments. And then you've had the whole coronavirus, so I was like, I'm not getting involved with that because I've got enough going on.
Get it in your eye.
Yeah, that's too much for me to deal with. So yeah, I mean, I hope that I can slowly get back into traveling, even if it's just like 1 to 2 week trips to New Zealand, to other places in Australia. I might get the courage to go back to Bali. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that right now, but
like, how would you, like, for anyone who plans to visit Bali, because obviously the theme of this topic was about, you know, your poor experience of Bali medical care. Like, so what would you recommend to people who are planning to go to Bali? Like, what should they expect in terms of a medical situation? What would you recommend that they do in a medical situation? Like, what should their expectations be, and what should they be planned? How should they plan ahead just in case anything does happen?
I mean, obviously the first place to start is make sure you have really good insurance.
Yeah.
And it's really important when you get your insurance policy to read through the T's and C's, so the fine print, and make sure that it's going to cover like different activities that you'll be doing, like paragliding or hiking to different heights, swimming, diving, whatever. And, you know, make sure that the level of cover is appropriate. So in Bali, obviously, the medical care works a little bit different. So if you're in an accident or you need treatment, like, you actually have to pay for it then and there. So obviously, if you've got insurance, your insurance is going to take care of that. But if you don't, then you could be facing like huge medical bills out of your own pocket. And we know a few people that's happened to. It's a thing. So just don't go there without insurance. Yeah. And obviously, you know, you're in a place that's not necessarily very like westernized in terms of infrastructure and cleanliness and things like that. So, you know, just be as hygienic as you can. Don't drink the water. You know, there's websites out there that you can research all this, like smarttraveller.com.au, I think, is the website that you can read up about the state of the water and these sorts of things that you should be mindful of before you travel there.
And what about like the hospitals and stuff and the actual medical, like the doctors?
Obviously, if something happens to you, yes, like go and seek medical treatment. Don't not go.
But have low expectations.
Yeah, I mean,
lower than what you would expect.
Don't believe everything that they tell you, and make sure you get a second opinion, even a third opinion. Like, go to 3 different hospitals. I don't know.
What I would say is, if you have any doubt in the slightest of the information that you are receiving from the medical care in Bali, then either seek a second opinion or go somewhere where you will feel comfortable, whether that's home, whether it's to Australia, which is quite close. I think someone says, I think Kuala Lumpur, is it Singapore, that I've got really good medical care and stuff as well. So again, if you've got any doubts, don't fuck about with your health.
And remember, like, you can phone your insurance company for advice. You can, if you've got the number still for your doctor, wherever you're from, just phone them. Yeah. Like, none of this is going to hurt you. The worst that can happen is the person you phone is going to say, sorry, we can't help you. Fine, then you just find someone else to help you, you know? Like, don't be afraid to call people and ask questions. Yeah.
So, I think that kind of covers it. That's another cheerful topic of discussion.
Sorry about that, guys.
My first 3 episodes were pretty morbid, talking about mental health, my own mental health. I brought you on to change the mood, and it's only just got a wee bit more morbid. But no, seriously, thanks for being my first ever guest. I could not have asked for a better first guest, obviously. I'm a wee bit biased. But thank you. How do you feel like that episode went?
Yeah, good. Obviously, I've not sat down and like talked about the whole situation from start to finish. And obviously it brought up a lot of memories. Sorry for the tears and all that.
Sorry, it's great. As I say, it's great for ratings.
Yeah, I am saying I was like all strong and that, and then I'm just like breaking down multiple times.
I'll be clipping that audio so I can use that as the promotion, get the tears.
Get the tears. Look forward to it.
No, but it's nice because obviously there is a lot of mental health implications involved with physical injuries. So it is important to talk about it. And as you know, I'm a big advocate for now talking about mental health and being very vocal about how you feel and stuff like that. So it has had implications, and I'm glad that you were very open to discussing this because I know it's still quite sensitive. It's still raw. It's
still happening to me.
Yeah, but I think you've not spoke about this. So obviously there's a lot of stuff that you've been keeping in. So hopefully you feel a wee bit better after talking about it.
Yeah, definitely.
So you think it went all right then? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was fun. I hope maybe next time we can talk about a different topic.
I think we'll try and talk about something a wee bit more cheery next time.
Yeah, if you want me back.
Of course I want you back. We have got lots to talk about. Let me tell you that. We have lots of talk about. So let's just round this up. I've got, as you know, I've got the Patreon account. I've still only got one patron, and that's Stephanie. So Stephanie, that's your shout out again. All bought and paid for. If you do enjoy listening to these podcasts, I would very much appreciate a financial contribution, just in return for some like personalised benefits.
Help them out.
It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort to make these things. Bought some shiny new microphones. I've got a couple of new cameras, and there's a big investment here in time and resources. So if you feel like being a patron, patreon.com/Jamie's Wee Podcast. And there's been no questions again this week. I think people are fed up asking questions.
People have probably asked too many questions about my eye and about everything.
Well, I feel like we've covered everything. I feel like even if anyone was to have asked a question about your eye situation, I feel like I think we've covered most of it.
I hope we have. If not, feel free to reach out. Yeah.
Is there anything else you would like to add?
Once again, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's helped me on this journey. I'm gonna cry again.
Oh, for God's sake. More tears.
Yeah, just thanks to everyone who has had me in their thoughts and sent me gifts and just been kind. Yeah, be kind, people. You never know what someone's going through.
Yeah. You feel better. You're going for the Oscar.
I'm going to take it away.
Aye, well done. Well, that's us. I think it's time to go back to our day jobs now.
Yeah, please.
Which is what? What are you doing? What's your day job?
I am going to continue to code the website.
Right, okay. We're building a new website. I need to get back to blogging after I've edited this podcast. And that is it. Back to the bread and butter. Hope you've enjoyed this. Do you want to say the tagline? Do you remember the tagline?
I actually don't remember it.
You don't remember it? The tagline is...
This has been Jamie's Wee Podcast. That's all I know.
This is Jamie's Wee Podcast. A podcast for big subjects and personalities, sprinkled with a touch of Scottish humour. That is it.
Fuck,
there you go. Bye.
Bye.